This week, coding friendly drones, downing rogue drones, and DIY health checks in blue domes? Drones could transform our skies as we know them, making deliveries, watching over us, and even saving lives. But as recent flight disruptions have taught us, there are also possible downsides from unwanted ones. Last December, here at Gatwick Airport, chaos ensued after reports of repeated drone sightings. 1,000 flights were disrupted, 140,000 passengers affected, and all of this was said to add up to a cost of £50 million. Soon after, there was a similar scare at Heathrow, as well as at Newark Airport in the US. But how do we take down problem drones safely? Well, Dan Simmons has been to the Netherlands, where the National Police Force is sponsoring a competition that hopes to find new ways of doing just that.
In a hangar, in the middle of nowhere, in the Netherlands, an epic air battle is about to commence. 9 teams from across Europe and America are trying to smash each other out of the sky and grab the €30,000 top prize and the title Drone Clash 2019 champions. All they have to do is down the opposition's Queen drone.
We've got a countdown.
But the organisers haven't made it easy.
This is one of the arenas that one of the teams will start from. Blue and red are the colours. They will leave their queen in here, and that is what the opposing team will have to try to knock out. But they'll leave their queen here. Their fighter drones will come through what's being called the corridor of death, doom and destruction. Look, a Tesla coil behind me, waiting to knock out one of those fighter drones if it gets too close. CO2 gas pumps here, firing at those drones as they come round the corner. They've got to get past this tennis ball machine, which is going to fire balls. There's going to be a man with a gun that fires a net through this hole to try to take out those drones as they come round. Lights will be flashing to try to blind the pilots. But once they get down this corridor of doom, death and destruction, they get to their opponent's arena and a chance to take out the Queen.
With all this destruction of kit going on, it's perhaps surprising no one's called the cops. But that's because they're the ones sponsoring the event.
In this contest, we hope to come across new creative ideas that we can adapt and use in our police methods.
Do you have your own ability to bring a drone down?
I will not go in detail about the abilities that we have. We have some of abilities, but it's not enough for us for the long run. Actually, we were hoping to see new strategies to help us bringing drones down, but I did see also new threats. Because perhaps you noticed there are a lot of drones that carry some kind of ball around them, and where some of the measures we take is attacking the rotors. The rotors are now protected by these balls, so it actually poses us with another problem.
Enter a sideshow that involves this tiny drone.
Tell me what this is.
Yeah, so this is one of the micro drones flying around in Drone Clash. And also the public can try to hack these very tiny drones. And then they can hack into the system and try to take it over. So
if one falls on our heads,
you know it is successful.
3 years ago, the Dutch police introduced their own solution to downing problem drones, trained eagles. But the programme ended a year later, as the birds couldn't be on hand quickly enough, nor be relied upon to cleanly snatch a drone from the skies rather than causing it to fall, which could be a problem for anyone below. back in the theatre of battle, and some teams were getting a hammering. Most have 3 or 4 face-offs, so quick repairs were needed.
So we are just fixing our drones. They got a little bit mangled in the past competition. Yeah, this is actually already flattened again.
How do you flatten them when they've been mangled?
So she stands on them.
You stand on them.
Our primary strategy was to use brute force, which is why we have this gigantic machine. If motors get hit, it can fly without. So for example, if sticks get damaged, it could still fly, which we thought was amazing. However, as you can see right now, it's missing stabilization, this is quite broken.
A lot of the other drones, they have a big mesh around them to protect the propellers.
Yeah.
And these will just go in there and get tangled in the propellers. These ones are pretty good for the balls as well, because they will hang in one of the corners of the balls and just pull it down.
But perhaps overall the event showed that the human flying skills on show were often the deciding factor.
It looks so easy because they're so adept at it, but your brain does somersaults and you flick it round and it's coming back at the other way and it's all bonkers. And the speed with which there's a drone flying over my head now, the speed with which they make decisions and flips and reverse it, it's just nuts. This is an airborne version of Robot Wars. My kids know nothing of Robot Wars, but they'll know about this. Both my boys have got drones. And so aerial battling drones, come on, it doesn't get any better. There's a Tesla coil in there, for God's sake.
On the fringes of the battlefield, companies in the growing business of taking down drones were showing off their solutions. This system is already operating at a Norwegian airport. It tracks and then identifies drones as a threat before jamming the frequencies used to control them.
In a usual environment, when you jam the drone, it will either start hovering, it will go back to his sender, back to his operator, or it will go down eventually on the battery. You can also jam the global positioning system. The drone will start hovering around, will start flying around because it doesn't know where it is, and then eventually it will go down also on its battery.
This beast, still in research, is the drone catcher. It makes use of radar systems already in the field to get its target's real-time 3D coordinates before automatically flying to the area and lining up its prey.
We shoot the net over the drone. We can carry it away with a wire, and we can drop it down with a parachute.
And then there's this. The gun emits a powerful electromagnetic beam, knocking out the command and control, video link and GPS frequencies used by the drone. Strict regulations in Europe mean it can't be used here, but its Dutch makers told me they're doing good business with governments in the Middle East. Back in the arena and the final was underway. In the end, it came down to brute force and battery power, with Belgium's Team Sluntz flying away with the 30k prize. The Dutch authorities certainly have a more entertaining way of learning how to down rogue drones than standing around and scratching their heads.
Dan there, looking at some serious ideas as to how to take drones out the sky, as well as those that seem to turn it into a sport. But of course, initially we need to be sure if there actually is a drone present, and if so, exactly where it is. This electromagnetic spectrum tracking technology has just been deployed at Gatwick.
So everything that emits an electro frequency, a radio frequency, it will be able to see and detect. It will know whether it's a drone or whether it's something else.
So how exactly does the setup work? You have two devices talking to each other?
Exactly. So you have two sensors. Each of them are getting a bearing on the drone itself. They get the bearing by the angle of arrival of the signal from the drone to the particular sensor. And by comparing the two directions, you can triangulate the exact position of the drone at any one time.
So at this point now, if a similar incident happened to what took place at Gatwick, how much of a difference could your technology make to the outcome?
We believe it will make a significant difference. Number one is that you would know categorically if there is a drone there or not. Certainly a drone emitting characteristic signals. And number two, you would know where the controller was and be able to interdict appropriately.
And what are your plans to roll out this technology elsewhere?
The technology has already been rolled out. We have a lot of interest both in the UK but also globally, not only from airports but also a number of other organisations and situations, from Stadia to private individuals looking for privacy.
OK, but for now, you think we've got a system that could make a difference?
From now, we've got a system that makes a tremendous difference.
Hi, and welcome to the Week in Tech. This week, Transport Group Stagecoach tested out a full-sized driverless bus for the first time in the UK. Google unveiled their new gaming platform, Stadia. More on that soon. And on the flip side, the company is also being fined £1.28 billion from the EU for blocking rival online search advertisers. It was also the week that MIT C-Cell unveiled a robot that it's been kind of keeping in the dark. Named KPAM, their system allows the robotic arm to precisely pick up and place objects it's never seen before by mapping out key points on it, so the bot's algorithms can work out how best to handle it. Social networking site MySpace, remember them, announced they lost 12 years worth of music uploads. A message on its website says that any photos, videos and audio files uploaded more than 3 years ago may no longer be available. The company says the mistake is due to a server migration project. And finally, are you good at art? Yeah? Well, I'm not. But Nvidia has developed an AI to make you into a master artiste. It's called GoGAN, a neural network which is trained on over 1 million images. And what it does is it takes your pencil strokes and color fills and transforms them into bits of nature almost instantly. Now that's a work of art.
The boss of Google is the first to admit that he's no gamer. But who can argue with a man who speaks this kind of hard truth to Americans?
And for those of you who are wondering what cricket is, it's kind of like baseball, but better.
If Sundar Pichai is as smart about gaming as he is about sport, he's surely onto a winner with this latest launch. Google Stadia is a streaming-only games platform. They've promised console-quality titles, all delivered down your internet connection. That means no discs, no downloads, and all accessible through just about any of your devices. What's important here is that Google thinks it has found a way around some of the huge problems that have faced game streaming services in the past, such as high latency rates that cause lag. To help with this, there's an optional Stadia controller, which connects independently to the internet to minimize any delay between you pressing a button and something happening in the game.
How are you confident that that's going to work when there's potentially millions of people all playing it at once?
So our vision was always to make sure that we could deliver the quality and vision of the game developer all the way to the gamer in their home. And so we have put some incredible technology in hardware and software and services in our data center to make sure that that happens. And that means we can deliver up to 4K, 60 frames per second, HDR and surround sound, which are the latest, greatest visual and audio technologies that gamers expect, but we're doing it streaming.
Google hasn't yet confirmed how it plans to sell this to gamers. Most people expect a subscription model. Think of it like a Netflix for video games.
It sounds really good and interesting on paper. I love especially their whole conversation about wanting to expand gaming's accessibility to a wider audience. And on paper, it sounds like this could do that. That said, I think there are a lot of question marks left as to whether in execution this is actually going to be the answer.
Google's announcement has definitely been the talking point of this year's GDC, because if they manage to pull it off, it's going to change this industry forever. That may not be a good thing.
If it does end up being a subscription model, there could be a huge impact on how games companies make their money. Some people are already predicting that we may start to see an even greater number of in-game payments to make up for that lost revenue. And then there's the issue of having to pay for a fast enough internet connection to make it work.
With advances that we're making in compression algorithms all the time, it means we can increase the quality without necessarily increasing the bandwidth requirements.
Google announced partnerships with Ubisoft and id Software, the maker of Doom. But if the company is going to entice hardcore gamers away from Xbox or PlayStation, they're going to need more than that.
Today was about showing our vision to the developer community here at GDC. We wanted them to see the capabilities of our platform and start thinking about how they could bring their creativity and technology.
But do you have more of them on board?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
How many more?
Well, I'm not going to share that with you today, but we'll be back in the summer.
AAA publishers.
Oh, totally. Well, look, we started with Ubisoft bringing their absolute latest game, day and date, to our platform back in October, and I think that gives you a pretty strong indication of our direction of travel.
Phil told me the company will announce a launch date and possibly even how much it will all cost at the E3 gaming show in June.
That was Dave Lee in San Francisco. Now, in some parts of the world, it's become pretty commonplace for kids to learn to code. But for those with vision problems, it's still fairly inaccessible. So we sent Paul Carter to find out what some of the big tech companies are doing to try and open up coding to children who are blind or partially sighted.
And then what happens?
I'm just having a word with this naughty pod that just tries to run away.
This is 8-year-old Ellie. Like many other children her age, she's learning how to code. She also happens to be blind.
So you have it on the one you want to happen first?
Yeah.
Ellie is using a physical, tactile coding language called CodeJumper. Developed by Microsoft, it's a block-based modular system consisting of a series of pods, each of which contains a single line of code, making up a story, a poem, or in this case, a song.
Follow your program.
Row your boat gently down the stream. Life is but a dream.
Coding is, by its nature, a visual medium, and often requires being able to see the whole picture. What makes CodeJumper unique is that it allows blind and partially sighted children to have an overview of their code with their hands. The woman leading the project is Cecily Morrison, a computer scientist at Microsoft's Cambridge Research Laboratory, who herself has a blind son.
For blind and low vision children specifically, the technologies that were available were not accessible to them. So many children now learn programming starting at this age of 7 with block-based languages. The other aspect that we shouldn't forget about is that we created this to be available to children regardless of their level of vision. So that means that it's available to children who are blind or low vision. It's equally available for children who are sighted. Because one of the things that we were very aware of was that we didn't want to create a technology that isolated the blind or low vision child at the back of the class in a different classroom doing their own thing. We wanted something they could engage with other children with and code together. And this is a selection.
But CodeJumper is only one solution to the issue of getting children with visual impairments into coding.
Some of you are new to Apple iPad accessibility and coding. So today we're going to run a session.
At Linden Lodge, a school for children with sensory impairments in South London, I went to see how Apple have been working with the Royal National Institute of Blind People to increase access to its own popular coding education app called Swift Playgrounds. Apple is using its suite of accessibility tools already built into its iOS devices, such as VoiceOver, high contrast and large text, in conjunction with some much more old-school assistive tech.
Byte should be here. It says go here, go here, go here, go here. And that's where the gem is.
They've created braille and tactile maps for each level of the app, so blind children can navigate the whole screen area with their hands.
There's clearly still a role for tactile maps and for images and diagrams. Yeah, I think it's a healthy kind of dynamic mix of old and new, and perhaps some experimentation as well.
The children here are using Swift Playgrounds to create code that will make a small drone fly.
You know, it's incredible. I think it's a moment where kids will say things like, I didn't think I would ever be able to do this. This is awesome. You know, I want to do this for a career. That's fantastic. And you know, it's contagious. Other kids pick up on that and think, well, maybe I could do that too. I didn't know that those tools were accessible. I'll go away and see if I can create something. And then they show one of their peers. And before you know it, you've got lots of people interested. That's what we want to do. Just kind of spread the magic, show what it's possible to do, and make sure that inclusion is at the heart of the development process.
Now, recently, Click has been taking a look at some of the latest tech to come out of Dubai, and one startup is hoping to make health checks as easy as a trip to the shops. Emily Bates has been to find out more.
I'm about to step into a new kind of health check. It requires no GP, no nurse, not even a doctor's office. These pods are being produced in the United Arab Emirates and aim to provide a full body checkup in less than 10 minutes. Created by startup Bodio, the pods take a number of readings throughout the check, such as your weight, blood pressure, lean body mass and blood glucose levels. All the tests are non-invasive, and you're guided through the process via an interactive display which uses the motion sensing of an Xbox Kinect. Part of the Dubai Future Accelerator programme, the hope is the pods will help tackle the country's obesity problem. Several recent studies show over 60% of the population is overweight.
Well, over here there's an endemic problem with diabetes, of course, and so trying to encourage communities to take ownership of their own health journey, really, to reduce the weight and the sugar intake, to offset that against you know, the diabetes problem, which costs the nation, costs the economy a lot of money.
The person can go inside and perform all of these tests without the need for a nurse, the assistance from a nurse, or without the need even to attend a doctor's clinic. And what that does, it raises the awareness in the community and makes the people more engaged and more concerned about monitoring their health, and also more enthusiastic about keeping track of their health in general.
It's a bit surreal sitting in a bright blue pod having your blood pressure taken. And this could be anywhere, so this could be in a mall, in a pharmacy. The idea is to put it in loads of accessible places so anyone can pop in and have a full body scan done at any time. You can then choose to send your health data to an app which can help you keep track of your results.
One of the big benefits of the system is its user control. So you're an end user, you have complete control over the privacy of your data. You elect, and within the program itself, there's a prescription. You can tick off who you want to share that data with, whether you want to share it at all. You are in control, really, of your own wellness, and at any time with your doctor, you can, of course, show him those measurements over some period of time, but also in the corporate setup. In terms of they might engage with a program and decide to have a corporate wellness effort within the company.
My results did match what I expected. What will not be good is, and you don't need to see that, I'm not taking my hand away, Nick. However, there was a bit of fluctuation when we repeated the tests. And without a doctor present, there is always a worry that an inaccurate result could lead to self-diagnosis. As for me, after that, I'm off to the gym.
Emily there in Dubai. Well, that's it for this week's show. If you want to find out what the team get up to throughout the week, well, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at BBC Click. Thanks for watching.